Can we kill the elephant in the room, man? Can we talk about the Phoenix Suns? I feel like we should. Because outside of the Kevin Durant, outside of the KD trade, I think they did a very good job.
They did.
I mean, Terrence Ross was a curveball because it seemed like he was going. I forget what the first report was, but it seemed like he was going somewhere, and then Phoenix swooped in, and he's a Sun all of a sudden. I like that. Very good move. We know what Terrence Ross can bring. Hasn't really been playing a lot lately in Orlando because, well, didn't really need him. And he can provide that bench scoring that this team has desperately missed over the last couple of seasons. I love that move. Obviously, you get Kevin Durant, get TJ Warren in that trade too, who I think was a very undervalued, overlooked piece in that trade. Another guy that can get his own shot, which is very key. And personally, I like the Darius Bazley move because it was like a low-risk move. Somebody that kind of was on the outs with his team that drafted him. And somebody that has a lot of talent too. He was a first-round pick. He was, I think, like a top 50 recruit in the nation. Supposed to go to Syracuse. Really talented guy that can provide a lot. And I think he might still have something there. Maybe a change of scenery. And the team that believes in him is key for him just to, get on the court and start flourishing a little bit. So I really love what they did at the deadline. Obviously headlined by Kevin Durant, but I think the other pieces that they brought in can really help this team compete for a championship.
Dude, Darius Bazley was killing my high school back in the day, man. It was not a fun time to play against them, but the Phoenix Suns, that is an A+ trade deadline. I think the big thing you see with when teams cash in for a star, especially in a trade scenario, like they give up a lot of depth. But then you look at what they got back, talking about TJ Warren, Terrence Ross, Darius Bazley, like I'm not going to say they were as deep as they were before, but considering the fact that Jay Crowder wasn't playing before, they did pretty well. And like to supplement it, like the adding of KD, like that's way more than the depth you lost from getting rid of the assets you got rid of. So like net gain, this team went from we don't know who's winning the West. We have like completely open, no clear favorite. We talked about it all the time to like the Suns are the team to beat. And the fact that you're able to get like a top 5 player in the world and still be this good of a roster top to bottom, I don't see a way where that's not an A+. Because, yeah, you gave up a bunch of picks, but like what did everybody say before? They said the Phoenix Suns window is either closing or it's closed. Chris Paul is not getting better. They should have beat the Bucks in 2021 or like got all the way there, got it done when they were the 1 seed last year, or else that was it. And now their window, it's not even looking like a window. It's looking like a garage door, man. It's huge. Like overwhelming favorite. I shouldn't say overwhelming favorite because there's still great teams in the East, but West-wise, I think I would call them close to an overwhelming favorite because this is just a stacked roster, especially in a playoff series. Like seeing Chris Paul close out games like as recently as last year, and then Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, we know what they do. So, like, we reacted the way we did last week for a reason.
Yeah, if Chris Paul is your third option closing games, you're doing pretty good. You're doing pretty good.
Definitely not doing too bad. I want to say shout out to the Suns' new owner because this is a hell of a way to start your tenure immediately as soon as you take over the team. And of course the KD trade is one thing, but like you guys mentioned, their moves they made around acquiring KD was good. Getting TJ Warren back was good. The Darius Bazley pickup is really good. Even though he has struggled offensively at times, he is a very defensively sound forward. It's one of the best in the league at defending power forwards, small forwards, can play some small ball 5 if you need. He's a very solid wing defender. You bring in Terrence Ross, he can give you a little bit of spacing as well. I mean, you can talk about the fact that they lost some depth, they lost some wing quality, and there was a lot of conversation after the KD trade was like, the Suns have no wing depth. That doesn't really track. You brought in TJ Warren. The Darius Bazley pickup was great because Saric is still fine, but defensively he's not great, and he hasn't been quite the same since his injury, unfortunately. And, I mean, you can make an argument that this team still has 6 legit NBA quality wings. Now, whether you want to consider Ish Wainwright and Josh Okogie in that equation is another conversation. But if those guys are like number 5 and 6, you're doing okay. That doesn't even include Torrey Craig. Like, there's a lot of depth still on this team for a team that just traded away Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and Jay Crowder. So they did a great job at replacing that depth. They did a great job at getting pieces that are going to fit well for their needs. They get another shooter. They get some good defense in Bazley instead of the more offensive-minded Saric. And like you said, Gabe, got to be favorites going into the Western Conference playoffs as long as they can stay healthy. That's, of course, going to be the biggest caveat. But as long as they're healthy, they're going to be right up there at the top of the mix. They're going to have some stiff competition, but KD trade was great, and the moves they made alongside that made sure they had enough depth moving forward to not be too sparse off the bench going into the postseason.
Yeah, amazing moves. They're built to go against like the Bucks, the Celtics. Like, even though you did lose Mikal, Cam Johnson, you still got quality wings like Torrey Craig. I think it's become an underrated piece. Even somebody like an Ish Wainwright, I think he could be valuable in certain matchups, like just to play spot minutes. So they did their thing, and even outside of the Kevin trade. I mean, that made it an A+ deadline right there, but they didn't mess up anything after that. In fact, they got better with the exterior moves that they did, man. So I'm with Gabe. It's definitely an A+ for me, too.
Definitely. I had it as an A just because I didn't quite feel like I could give them an A+ when you're losing your two starting wings, but, I mean, I'm not going to fault them for it. You got KD for it, so A+. They got Kevin. They're the team to beat in the West, and they had themselves a great trade deadline one way or another. That is for sure.